everybody. Thank you guys so much for being here. We have people from all around the country. I am so excited for the topics that we're learning today. People here represent 28 organizations, over 400 students. I am DJ Wildstyle, and that was my mix. I hope you guys enjoyed it.
What was that last song you played for us?
So that last song is actually that last song is called I think Hot and Hungry, and a lot of the songs I picked were actually, if you guys couldn't tell, international songs. And my reasoning for that was you look all over, and even though it's not as widely seen as I think it should be, there's a lot of issues about food justice all over the world, and food being one of the things that's essential for human life, and there being so many widespread issues over people not having the same access to food as others. I think I'm so grateful Tzedek America is putting on this program today because I think it's very important everyone has access to basic human needs.
So welcome to IEIE Inform, Elevate, Inspire, Engage. For those of you who are just joining, my name is Avram Mandel. I'm the founder of Tzedek America.
My name is DJ Wildstyle. I will be your co-host for this evening.
Yes, and I feel very appreciative to have you as my co-host. Welcome to Tzedek America's Inform, Elevate, Inspire, Engage. And that's really our goal, is to inform you about a topic and elevate the voices that need to be elevated, and then inspire you to get involved and then to engage, do something about it. And as you'll learn at the very end, our partnership with Repair the World, Rabbi Jesse Dressen will come on and tell us how we can do something about this topic. So food justice, I really love this quote by Paul Cézanne, the artist, and he said, "A day will come when a single carrot will start a revolution." So, I mean, either it's a carrot with like blazing guns, but I don't think that's what it means. I think it means that people who can grow their own food and people who can have access to their own food and be in charge of their own destiny, and food is, as you know, is such an essential part of living. If we're reliant on other people when it comes to our clean water, our healthy food, then we're giving somebody else the power. And how can we empower ourselves? And if a single carrot can start a revolution, because the people in power are not going to be happy when everybody else can control their own destiny. And that is kind of what we're talking about today, because the way our society is set up, we don't really have a lot of control over the food we get. And so we're going to study about food justice, food insecurity. So what is food insecurity? Food insecurity is not having access to affordable and healthy food. Now, if you've been to the grocery store with your parents or with an adult and you've seen the groceries that you're buying for 4 days or a week, you know the cost. Like, you've seen that total come up. You might even gone like, whoa, we spend that much on food. And that's because you have access to that food and you're able to afford that food. Hopefully you're in that position. But there are many millions of Americans who are not in that position because of lack of money, lack of options. Maybe they have 2 jobs. So when are they going to go shopping? Maybe they don't own a car. So if you're in a food desert, that means if you live in a city, you're more than a mile from a grocery store. And if you're in an urban, a rural area, then you're 10 miles away from a grocery store without access to healthy food. And 23 million people live in a food desert. So we've got some work to do to get that number way down. And this is different than just not having money. This is different than just being poor. This is about where you go to buy your food. So what I want to do right now is show you a video, and it's about 2 moms that are from California, specifically Los Angeles, and one lives in a neighborhood in Boyle Heights, and one lives in a neighborhood called Santa Monica. I'm not going to define those neighborhoods for you, but you'll see as the video does, you'll get a sense of the difference between the two neighborhoods. They're going to teach you about a food desert. And remember, I just taught you a food desert is not being within a mile of a grocery store that has access to healthy food. So let's watch this video and hopefully you'll learn a little bit.
Hello, my name is Olga Perez. Welcome to my home. This is where I live. I live in Ramona Gardens, Boyle Heights area. And now I'm gonna trade places with another mom that lives in another area of LA, and we're gonna go grocery shopping.
Hi, I'm Marla. I live in Santa Monica. Today, I'm gonna swap places with another mom who lives in a different part of Los Angeles, and we're gonna go grocery shopping.
Well, we left my house, we got in the car, we went on the freeway, and we went all the way to Santa Monica, which was a different area.
I learned in the course of this grocery swap that access to fresh fruit and produce and other healthy foods is not equal across the city.
I work 7 days a week, and like my daughter will call me and tell me that we're out of eggs, we're out of milk, we're out of something. So then I take off from work to go to the market, and I have to catch a bus to go to the market. And then when I get off and I go to the market, I go shopping, and at the same time I'm shopping uncomfortable because I'm looking at all this stuff that has fat in it and all this stuff that's not good for us.
The most surprising thing was that in the larger supermarket that I went to, most of the food that was available and the cheapest food that was available was what we call junk food. There were rows and rows of sodas and chips, and all of these very cheaply priced but nutritionless foods were located right in the front of the store. Those were the ones that were most prominently displayed.
The first ingredient is high fructose corn syrup. And I feel like it's not fair, because that's why our kids, we're feeding them everything that's not healthy, because we don't have a choice. We have what's there in our market, and we don't have an option to buy something healthy. I was really amazed when I went to this side of town and seen all those markets and all that food. Somewhere I had never seen before. I never even knew those stores exist. When they told me organic food, I'm like, what's organic? What's that? Every apple or any vegetable I picked up was nice and healthy and fresh. We don't have that in our stores. We're digging in there for the fruit that at least is eatable.
The thing that moved me and impressed me most about Olga is that she's very hardworking, and it's nearly impossible for her to feed her family in a healthy way.
I can't go buy something at Nico's because it's expired. I have no choice but to go to the liquor store. And I go to a liquor store and I have to pay probably 3 times the price that a market would have it for.
This is an issue that affects all of us. This affects our children, this affects older people. As a mother, I know how important it is to feed children healthy food.
It's also affecting the kids at school. My daughter goes to Lincoln High School, and they also have problems with the kids. They're getting overweight. They're not concentrating on their work right. They're falling asleep in class.
A lot of the supermarkets, especially Whole Foods, talk a lot about giving back to the community and talk about the importance of healthy food. But what exactly does that mean when it's only healthy food for some people?
Our elected officials should get involved. We really need their help, and we need them to come and get involved and bring a market to our community with good food and healthy foods with reasonable prices.
So the issue of access to healthy food isn't an issue that just affects people over there in other communities. This is all of our issues. It's an issue for all families. It's an issue for all of us.
I think what really moves me about that video is not just like access to healthy food, but all of the ripple effect repercussions of not having access to healthy food, because then that leads to, as they were saying, diabetes, lack of sleep, lack of mental health. There's cancer related to not having access to healthy food. And if you saw one mom wasn't even aware that some of the items existed, or even certain grocery stores existed. So sometimes we're in our own world. You might have even thought, how is that even possible that you have never heard of Whole Foods before? But that's because you're living in your world and you've heard of Whole Foods. So how can we spread the knowledge and the access to healthy living, healthy eating, and being able to get those things? And just a quick, if you didn't know, you go to a produce market, the stores go to a produce market at night and it's open from 12 a.m. to 6 a.m. And the most expensive and nicest fruits and vegetables are available at 12 a.m., 1 a.m. And as the time goes on, the cheaper fruits that are about to expire and spoil are then available at 5 a.m. And that's where the grocery stores, one of the moms, or the liquor store purchased their vegetables at 5 a.m. So there's this whole system that is set up that doesn't help people be successful when it comes to feeding their family. We're going to now switch gears. Not switch gears, but we're now going to learn about what Judaism has to say about healthy food. And we've been talking about this for 2,000 years. And I'm happy to welcome Rabbi Adam Allenberg from the Hebrew Union College, who's going to share some teaching with us today. Thanks for joining us, Adam.
Thanks so much for having me. These are issues that are really dear to my heart. I've been myself concerned about these issues for a long time. So I want to briefly today share with you 4 big Jewish ideas around food justice and food access. So these aren't all of the principles of food justice that Judaism has to offer, but some of them. And so I want to start with the most obvious place, this donkey. I want to think with you a little bit about the way that we treat our animals. So I'm going to start with this quote from Exodus, and I should say that everything I'm sharing today comes from the Torah. You don't have to be a Jewish scholar to access some of our most regular books. So this comes right out of the book of Exodus. When you see the ass, a donkey, of your enemy lying under its burden and would refrain from raising it, you must nevertheless raise it with him. The idea here being that we have to care for animals. They work for us, and we should think of them almost as employees. The way that we make them work for us, we have to learn to treat them with dignity. So much so, in fact, that you're not allowed to mix animals that are working alongside each other in the field. Here you can see a donkey next to an ox. This is a burden on the donkey because the ox can work so much harder, but it's also a burden on the donkey, the rabbis later say, because an ox has multiple stomachs. And so it looks to the donkey as if you're feeding the ox while it's chewing its cud that the donkey didn't get. So it thinks, oh, you got a meal that I didn't get. So this is our first principle, tsar ba'alei chaim, not to overburden animals and to treat them with dignity. The truth is our goal is to treat everyone with dignity. We're trying to help everyone out. And the world that our ancestors inhabited was no less, or I should say, no more just than the world we live in. They suffered injustice as we do. They suffered inequality as we do. And so I want to share this teaching also from Exodus, just a little bit further on. And a stranger you shall not oppress, for you know the heart of a stranger, seeing as you were strangers in the land of Egypt. That's us. That's something that comes up quite a bit in our Torah as a reminder that we were once on the other side of our own blessing. We were once on the other side of prosperity as we know it. And then immediately following this, it teaches us, in 6 years you shall sow your land and gather in its increase, meaning all of the food that you're growing. But in the 7th year, you're going to let it rest unplanted, so that other people, the poor of your people, may eat. And what they leave will be for the beast of the field. This means that we let our land lie fallow every 7 years. We count up to 7. And the hope is that in that 7th year, we can really let a sort of Shabbat of the land. We don't bother it. We let the land rest. We let the farmers and workers rest. And from there, we make it possible for others to be eating. They take from the field what they can. They gather what they can. The animals graze as they would without any additional burdens. And they eat as they should. The next, and these, by the way, these are some pictures of people who are doing this today. They're going through a field on a farm and gathering all the stuff that the farmer left behind in order to feed those who are hungry. This woman's even wearing a shirt that says "glean machine," meaning that you take the gleanings, the leftovers, the things that you can find in the field. The third idea is that we should eat, we should be satisfied, and we should bless. Food is not fuel, and it should never be treated that way. That video reminded us that sometimes we treat food about calories, but actually it's about nourishment, about feeling dignity, and giving thanks. And then the last idea, perhaps the one that's most popular to us, comes from Leviticus, that we should not reap all the way to the edges of our field or gather in everything, but we should leave parts of it bare. We should leave the corners of our field available. We leave the fallen fruit of the vineyard and of our olive orchards so that others can come along and take what they need, that they should nourish themselves from the same stuff that we nourish ourselves with. And these are the many gifts of our tradition, that we care for animals, we care for the land, we care for our bodies and the nourishment that we can gain, and that food is a chance to make the world look like a different place. Thanks so much. Really great to be with all of you. I know that was quick, but I know that the learning you'll have today will enrich you immensely.
Adam, thank you so much for that. And I really appreciate that the people who wrote the Torah thought in advance that there's always going to be hungry people. There's always going to be people who don't have enough money and to pay for essentials like food, and to already have, from over 2,000 years ago, someone says, you know what, if you're picking fruit from a tree and it falls on the floor, leave it. Someone else will get it. Someone needs it. I think that's a beautiful way to live your life, to support other people that way. DJ Wildstyle, rumor has it that you have a relationship to Boyle Heights.
Yes, so actually a lot of my family has grown up in Boyle Heights. My dad went to high school there. He was actually the school president in Boyle Heights. I have lived there and seen exactly what we're talking about. I mean, we in my house had to drive about 4 miles to get to the nearest grocery store, and definitely so many like Takis, and there were spices, but the fresh produce was hard to find. And I know a lot of my family spent a lot of time trying to look for it and keep us all healthy. And I also did some work with the American Diabetes Association. I DJ'd a fundraiser of theirs, and it's definitely, food insecurity is a big part of also just people's health in general. So I think this is really important.
Yeah, and I love how you always are giving your gifts to support different nonprofits doing important work. Thank you for that. Our next guest is the CEO and founder of Swipe Out Hunger, the leading nonprofit ending college student hunger. Nationally, 1 in 3 college students are food insecure. That's a staggering number. I think, like, my thought is if you're going to college, you have enough money for food. That's clearly not the case. She grew up in the suburbs of Los Angeles, is the middle child, and is on the board of her synagogue, IKAR, and she has been recognized by many magazines, including Forbes 30 under 30 list. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome Rachel Sumek.
Hi, everyone. Good afternoon, good evening. So excited to be here with you all.
Rachel, thank you so much for being here with us. It's a big deal that you're willing to talk with all of us. So tell me, what exactly is Swipe Out Hunger and what do they do?
Great question. So for those of you who've ever visited a college campus, you may have had the chance to go into a dining hall, which are these amazing restaurants on campus. And when you live in the dorms, you have to purchase a meal plan. So maybe you purchase a meal plan that gives you 10 or 15 or 20 meal swipes a week. And if you don't use all of those meal swipes that are allocated to you in that week, they're non-refundable. They expire. You can never get that money back.
So it's like a debit card.
It's like a debit card. And at the end of the semester, the school keeps all the money, even though you paid for it.
That doesn't sound fair.
It doesn't sound fair, right? So me and my friends, when we were students at UCLA, go Bruins, we decided to go in the dining hall and at the end of the semester, buy extra food with our meal swipes and hand it out to people who are hungry, including our friends who we know you were surviving on like ramen noodles night after night. I know some of us love ramen. That's fine every now and then, but not whenever it's your only choice, right? People got to have choices. And so eventually we convinced UCLA. They were not happy with this at first. They wanted to keep that money for themselves. But eventually we convinced them to let us donate it directly from our meal plans onto the ID cards of other students who are hungry. Wow. So we've now grown that from UCLA to over 125 universities and have served 2 million dining hall meals just by letting students who have extra dollars donate them to our friends who are hungry.
Wow. So I know that a lot of our teens on this webinar are also very involved in different nonprofits or subjects that they're passionate about and trying to bring that to their high schools and have their high school administrations care about that. So how did you get the schools to care about that? Because you're taking lots of money away from them. And while you're answering this question, like, how could a teenager who has something they're passionate about bring it to their administration? And what can we learn from you about how you did that?
That's such a great question. So part of the story I didn't tell was that when my friends and I initially started going in the dining hall and buying food, we set up a table outside and we asked everyone to go out and bring us boxes of food also. I mean, by the end of the day, we had a mountain of white styrofoam boxes of food behind us. And what happened was one of our dining hall managers came over to us, smashed one of those to-go boxes and said, "This is not happening on my campus, stop immediately." And for us, we were left with a choice of, like, first of all, as you said, Avram, it makes no sense that this money goes to waste. We should decide what happened. So first it was like, how dare you even tell me what to do with the money I paid for? And then we can either, like flip that table and say a bunch of bad words to this guy and say, how dare you tell us what to do? We're going to go do this. That was one option. Another option was to be like, you're right. This is against the rules. This isn't how you're supposed to use your meal swipes. We're going to stop. What we decided to do was something in the middle, where we said, does it make sense that you're not letting us do this? Can we have some meetings? Can we talk about this? And at first they really did not want to sit down with us, but we continued to email them. We continued to say, please, will you meet with us so we can talk about this? And eventually they did. And we put on our nice button downs. We went into a meeting with them and we were able to get UCLA to finally find partnership, right? We said, this is beneficial for you. This is beneficial for us. Like, let's find a way. And through a partnership mentality, we were able to win. So I always, encourage folks to say, what can the other side potentially gain from this? And how do I bring that forward?
Wow. That's a great story. Finding that partnership and saying like how it benefits them as well as benefits your goals. That's always a key when trying to make change. So how does a self-described shy middle child from the suburbs of Los Angeles go on to become the CEO of a nonprofit working with 120 colleges across the United States?
Great question, and very similar to DJ Wildstyle's dad. I was even student body president of my high school, but I was still I was like the nerdy kind, not the cool kind of student body president, like still shy and quiet. And it wasn't until I got to college, and it was actually that moment when that administrator smashed that box, and I said, wait, like I thought people who were in authority, people who had power, are always right. They're doing the right thing. That's why they have power. And it occurred to me that no, sometimes those people aren't making the right choices as described to like what I think is right with my values. And so from that moment, I'm like, all the rules around me need to be questioned. Every room I walk into, I need to ask, are these people making the right choices? Are these rules set up with my values at the center? And that voice just couldn't be quieted in me anymore.
Wow. In studio audience, we're about to let you ask a question to Rachel Sumek. So if you want to put a question in the question area, and then Sandy, if you could ask the questions, that would be great, because I can't see my screen because I'm a little too far from it right now. But so you talked about your values. So tell me your story. Where did your values come from, and why do you care about this issue?
Yeah, and I know today's topic is focused on food justice. And I mean, like many of you, I grew up in a home where food was something that brought people together. You know, food leftovers were always a thing. And at various times, my family immigrated to the United States. We're Iranian Jews. And when we first came here, it was very hard to resettle. And so we relied on programs like SNAP, which are public benefits. Many people know them as food stamps, to be able to get us the resources that we needed. And because of benefits like that, my parents were able to achieve the American dream and get us to where we are today. So personally, I know that if people sometimes just need a helping hand for a year or two, something to come in and give them peace of mind that they have access to food so they can go off and do what they need, the power of those programs is huge. So personally, I'm driven by my personal story, and also just like, how do we have grocery stores with alfalfa everywhere, but there are people who are hungry, right? Like, who cares so much more about alfalfa, which is a hard thing to make happen, requires a lot of water. We don't care about food access. So always thinking about just what doesn't make sense.
Wow. And I love the concept of your family was always sharing food and inviting people in, and you realized that was an essential part of who you are. And how you brought that to the broader world and out of your small circles. Sandy, do we have any questions from our panelists?
Will you keep expanding your organization? How did you get so many colleges on your side? Do you think that food stamps are effective? And could there be a better system? Did you just give leftover food to your friends? And did you donate it to a food bank or somewhere else? How is it beneficial to the schools? And does your organization do anything more than it did when it first started?
All amazing questions. I'm going to do like lightning round responses.
Go for it.
So as far as, yeah, we've grown beyond meal swipes, right? Especially in this moment when students have such a hard time getting onto campuses, and yet they're still, facing a lot of food insecurity. We've grown to have programs that are super innovative, programs that are about policy and creating advocacy change at the systemic level. We've grown far beyond meal swipes. And what I like to say for anyone who's like an aspiring entrepreneur is, and I apologize to Kimberly, I talk so fast. I know you're trying to keep up. I'm gonna slow down a little bit. We have been able to grow far beyond just meal swipes and meet students' needs wherever they are. How did we get so many schools to get on board? Amazing, passionate students just like you all, right? All 125 of our sites are run by college students. That's the only way this was able to scale. The same experience I had going from like a shy middle child, whatever, not speaking out, we're giving that same experience to other young activists on campus who want to step up. Are food stamps effective? Absolutely, right? They're the one program that gives families a little debit card with maybe $185 to $300, depending on how many people are in the house, to go grocery shopping. You can only use it on groceries. The challenge is that it's so hard to apply for. The other thing is, if you're a college student, you have to work 20 hours a week on top of being a full-time student to be eligible for food stamps. So that's not effective. But there's ways that we can really make sure that people get access to food. Wow, so many. We got colleges on our side by creating pressure. Once we got one college, once we got UCLA, USC wanted on board. Once we got, like, the rivalry is real.
Well, there was a question that I'm also curious. How did you say it benefited the college because it's taking away money from them?
Yeah, it benefited the college because it helps their students graduate. All schools want to say that we're a good school, we help people graduate. And so that's great for them. It also is good for the schools because when we got our survey results back from our evaluation, we asked students, how did getting these meal swipes help you? And the most common response, more than it helped me focus, more than, you know, my health got better, they said, I felt like finally the school was made for students like me. Right? Imagine walking around a campus where everything is so expensive. You're like, this place isn't made for me. But suddenly there's a program there that says, yeah, this is free food for whoever needs it, right? So it really builds a new culture on campus.
All right. We have some guest live in studio audience members who are going to ask some questions. Meredith, why don't you start us off?
Hi, I'm Meredith. Thank you for being here, first of all. So my question is, oh, I might be glitching out. Sorry if I'm glitchy. How did you overcome your shyness when talking to administrators?
Oh, you muted at the end, but I overcame my shyness because I was like, if I don't say something, if I don't do something, this is all going to be over. Like the world needed me, right? At a certain point, I'm like, if I don't do this, like people are not going to get food. So it was giving myself the like even chance, right? Doing a little bit of something and then feeling I couldn't not do something at that point.
Thanks, Meredith. Jared.
Hello. I was wondering, like, how do you deal with administration that might not want to meet with you or administration that isn't willing to cooperate?
You know, I mentioned, you know, there's different ways that activists can respond to things. And, you know, some of our students decide when their administration doesn't want to talk to them how to respond. We have students on many campuses who've gone on hunger strikes where they've not eaten for days because their administration was not willing to approve the program, to make a point that like when my friend sitting next to me is hungry, I'm not going to go one day without advocating for them. So some students take that route. Some of our other students write petitions. Some of them go and get student government to pass a resolution, and they, you know, make the administration have to work with them. They protest, they demonstrate. Our students, you know, we have a whole activist toolkit. We let them know these are all the ways, what resonates with you and your campus and culture.
Thank you, Jared. Courtney.
Hi, thank you for speaking.
Courtney, where are you from, by the way? I should have asked the other chicken.
I'm from Massachusetts.
Oh, awesome.
Yeah. So I was wondering how you made recipients of the program feel comfortable receiving food from their peers.
Such a great question. You know, when it comes to getting resources to people who are food insecure or financially insecure in some way, there's something called stigma, right? People, as you allude to, who are hesitant to go and ask for help because it might make them feel shameful that they need help from others. We find that when community comes together, and it's actually peers and not like some, you know, old person in some place that they've never heard of, it's actually much less stigmatized, that students want to show up, that when they know that it's the person sitting next to them who wants to help, they're more likely to come and get that resource. And we also have really great marketing, right? Instead of our flyers saying things like, are you hungry? Come here to get food. Our flyers say, 1 out of 3 students at UMass Amherst are food insecure. If you're one of them, come get food here, right? Language that's much more inclusive than stigmatizing.
Well, thank you for that question, Courtney. Rachel, it's your you're an impressive individual. Your organization is impressive. And I think like having an idea and moving it into action and then saying like, how do I spread this idea? And then to be in 125, you keep growing the number, by the way, while we're talking, but that's amazing.
Yeah.
How are you in 100? You must have just gotten 5 new colleges.
Yeah, literally. I think it might even be 126. This week was a great week for us.
I love it. I love it. And you've really hit a nerve, and there's people that said, I can do something about this. And it started with you and your idea, and the domino effect, the ripple effect of you saying, I can do something about this. And studies show that when you are courageous, other people want to be courageous with you. So
Yeah.
that's an amazing lesson in itself.
Thank you. It was so fun to be able to join you all today. And one of the things I really believe in is when we tell stories, the stories that we tell demonstrate our values, right? When I tell you that when someone told me to stop, serving meals and I stepped up and said, no, I need to do something, that demonstrates that type of person I am. And so as you all go out into the world and share who you are as activists, to tell stories about your life and who you are that demonstrate your values, because it'll inspire people to also step up and know what their values are and also take action. And thank you, Sasha, for throwing our link in the chat. If anyone is interested as you're heading off to college to learn more about Swipe Out Hunger, or if you know someone in college who either needs help or wants to be an activist, please check out our site and get involved. Oh, definitely follow us on Instagram. We've got some great memes.
You guys do have some great memes on Instagram. Thank you so much for joining us, Rachel. Have a good night.
Bye, y'all.
We're going to put up some trivia. Now we have breaking news from our live current events correspondent in the field, Sasha Dominguez, who will tell us what's happening with food justice and food security today.
So great to be with you all this evening. I am, as Avram said, Sasha Dominguez, and I am going to tell you all a little bit about what has been going on in food justice in the U.S. specifically since COVID. Grocery food prices have increased over 4% in the last year due to COVID. Most of you said that this was true, and it is in fact true. This is because when there is a high demand for groceries, the prices rise. And because more folks are in their homes right now due to COVID, they're buying groceries more frequently and dependent on getting their groceries from grocery stores, which leads us into that question of COVID-19 has resulted in, I think it was a little bit mixed as to how many millions of Americans are food insecure due to COVID-19. It was 80 million Americans. And because unemployment rates are sky high right now, and students children aren't going to school, and so their parents are dependent on their children are dependent on their parents for meals that they would typically be getting from their school or other supplementary programs, which leads us to that question of what percentage of children are projected to be food insecure this year in America. That is 23% of children are projected to be food insecure in America this year. And it's, as I said, because, there are a lot of children that aren't getting food in the same way. I think Rachel spoke to this at the college level, but students K through 12 that were going to school up until March and now are no longer getting those meals in the same way, in the same regularity, are now food insecure. And that question of food banks are expected to face a 6 to 8 billion meal shortfall in the next year. And I think there was some mostly you thought this was true, and this is true. And we are about to watch a video which speaks to pickling, and which I think comes into with this food banks being expected to have not enough meals to provide, and our grocery stores having very high the prices being so high, that we're going to be able to show you now how pickling could be able to utilize and make these groceries last longer, and these meals last a little bit longer for folks who are food insecure.
Hey, pickle people, thanks for joining me in my kitchen. And now I'm going to teach you how to make pickles. You know why? Because I love pickles. That's right. Boom! Eat your heart out, Zach King. You don't know who Zach King is? You can Google him. He's pretty cool. Anyway, the point is, why are we even making pickles on this food justice webinar, right? So the thing is that we teach people how to grow their own food. So no one else can say that you have to drive 2 miles to get fresh produce, or they get to charge whatever they want to charge for fresh produce. But we're teaching people how to grow their own food. That's part of food justice and food security. But if you have your own garden, all your cucumbers are ready on the same day. Or that's not true, but they're all ready within a month or two. What are you going to do with them? If you can have cucumbers in your salad, yeah, that's decent. Then you can have cucumber smoothie. That's actually not so bad. And then cucumber toast, not a thing yet, but maybe it will be one day. Cucumber ice cream, I'm not interested. Cucumber this, cucumber that, boop, 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 right? You can't do it. So you've got to preserve your cucumbers so they can last 3 weeks later, 5 weeks later. So if a cucumber is sitting on your counter, it's going to get moldy right away. Well, not right away, but within 3 to 5 days. If it's just sitting on a counter, boom, moldy, mushy, you don't want to eat it. What they do with this kind of cucumber is they put a wax coating over it so that it lasts longer. We are not going to pickle this kind of cucumber. No way, because it won't be good. The brine can't penetrate that skin. You're going to want to do a Persian cucumber or a Kirby cucumber, all right? Kirby cucumber, Persian cucumber. Persian cucumber, meet Kirby cucumber. Hello. Okay, not the point either. All right, so we're learning to preserve our food, right? So it's going to be, if you don't love pickles, someone in your house does, so make them anyway. What you're going to need is first salt and water. Okay, so we have clean water. I got it from my sink. Then we're going to add salt. But this is table salt, and we're not going to add table salt, okay? No table salt. We're going to use kosher salt or pickling salt, okay? Pickling salt is kosher salt that they just grind up really fine so that it dissolves faster in the water. You're going to take 6 cups of water and 1/4 cup of salt, and we're going to pour that in there. Then we'll stir that up. And if you're doing it in a blender like I'm doing, then you can just put this on the blender, and then you can see the salt is already mixing in there. And this is your brine. That wasn't that hard, was it? And if you want to just put 2 tablespoons of salt with water in here and shake that up and then pour it out and use it, I'll explain that in a minute. If you want to use 2 tablespoons of salt with water straight into the jar, you can do that. But you're not going to put the water in first. All right. What we're going to do is get our spices. We have black peppercorn. If you don't like black pepper on your food, still use it. Mustard seed. If you don't like mustard, still use it. If you're allergic to mustard, don't use it. Coriander. Coriander is dried cilantro seed. Okay? Or I guess it's just cilantro seed. Then garlic. You can use minced garlic, sliced garlic cloves, or I use dried garlic, which I buy in bulk, lasts forever, and it is dehydrated, but when you put it in the brine, it hydrates, right? Yay, English lesson. Okay, so, and if you want, you can add red pepper to make things spicy. I'm not going to do that today. And bay leaf. Bay leaf is the leaf from a laurel tree, and it helps keep your pickle crunchy, adds a little bit of flavor. You can also use a grape leaf or an oak leaf, and the tannins from those leaves keep your pickle crunchy. All right, step 1, take your jar. This is an old Clausen's pickle jar. This is a new Clausen's pickle jar. This is a Clausen's pickle jar, but I finished all of the pickles. So you're going to add your spices. Black pepper, half a teaspoon. Boom, it's in. Coriander, dried what? Cilantro, correct. Pour that in. Half a teaspoon of mustard seed. Okay, then you like a lot of garlic, pour a lot of garlic in. You don't like a lot of garlic, still put in like a clove or two's worth of garlic. And then your bay leaf. Okay, what's next? The cucumber. Makes sense, because we're making pickled cucumbers. Many cultures have pickles. Koreans have kimchi. Japanese cucumbers use beets and radishes. There's pickled chilies that you can find in South America. So every culture has some kind of pickle because every culture needs to preserve their foods. The oldest pickle recipe we know about is from 2000 BCE in Mesopotamia. That's pretty old. And the pickles that they found were really nasty. Not true. Please don't quote me on that. So what I'm doing is I'm taking a jar, I'm making this beautiful pickle snow globe jar. Okay, I'm putting the cucumbers in sideways. And we're going to shove these in there so that they can't float to the top. So what is a pickle? It is, for us, it is a fermented or preserved cucumber that's preserved in a brine. Our brine, remember, is just salt and water. You can also do a vinegar brine, but because we're making half sour pickles today, we're using just salt and water. So now, you see, they can't come out, but they don't come out, right? Because I jam-packed them in there. And when you buy a jar of pickles from the grocery store, you'll notice that you can't take the pickles out very easily because they also are jam-packing them in there because they don't want them to float to the top. Anything that floats to the top gets mushy because the salt water preserves it, the vinegar preserves it. Now, salt water. Has your parent ever told you to gargle with salt water when you had a sore throat? Salt water kills bad bacteria, but it allows good bacteria to grow. And we call that good bacteria lactobacillic bacteria. Okay, it's really good for your gut. It'll give you a six-pack. No, not that kind of good for your gut, but it's good for the internal part of your gut. It's good for your digestion system. You're going to fill this all the way to the top. Okay, you see that? It's like something about, I don't remember, meniscus level? I don't remember, something about science. But the point is, all the way to the top, so every cucumber is filled. And look at that, that's a beautiful cucumber snow globe. That's all that stuff. You can shake it up, you can leave it there, it'll float. It'll start to float around later. So now we have two options. We've added all of our spices, we've added our cucumbers, and we've added the salt water. Option one, you're not feeling very adventurous, you're a little nervous about what's going on here. Take the lid, cover it, put it in the refrigerator, and in 6 days, 5 days, you're going to have a really delicious marinated cucumber pickle, okay? But if you want it sour, a little bit sour, and we're making half sour pickles today, then what you do is don't put the lid on tight, put it on loose, put it in a jar. Well, it's already in a jar. Put it in a bowl and put it on your counter away from the sunlight. And what's going to happen is tomorrow, this jar of pickles is going to be cloudy. And that cloudiness is the lactobacillic bacteria. You can actually see it. It's really incredible, right? And that's what gives it that sour taste. And you might be thinking, ooh, I'm eating bacteria, but like just going this. If you did that just now with me, you just swallowed bacteria, okay? So you can get over that a little bit. It's going to ferment. Now, the reason we put it in a bowl and we put the lid on loosely is because carbon dioxide, the same thing that makes your soda fizzy, is going to be created when you make this jar of pickles, when it starts to ferment, when the lactobacillic bacteria starts to be created in this little, world you're creating here. And CO2 is going to push that water out, and then the bowl will catch it. Now, how do you know when your pickles are ready, right? So you're going to taste them, okay? And after like 2 days, you'll taste it. If it's not sour enough, let it ferment for another day. After 3 days, taste it. It probably won't take you longer than 3 or 4 days to get it to that sourness that you want. Then put the lid on tight after those 3 or 4 days. Put it in the refrigerator. Refrigeration slows down tremendously, almost stops the fermentation process. And then you can eat them whenever you want. They won't last very long because you've just made amazing Sedek America half-sour pickles. And by the way, if you were curious, we have our own private label, Sedek America half-sour pickles, and we'd be happy to send you one. Send us your address. We'll send you a label. You can put it on a jar, you can put it on your guitar, or you can put it on your car, you can put it near, or you can put it far. So again, why did we make pickles today when we're studying about food justice and access to healthy food? We did it because we're talking about how to have sovereignty, right? How can we be the ruler of our own world and not be reliant on other people for us to be healthy? Right? So one way is to grow your own food. And in addition to growing your own food, we now need to preserve it because we have it. And I love pickles. So any chance I can have to teach you how to make pickles or eat pickles, I'm going to do that. This was a lot of fun. I hope you learned a little bit and had fun too. If you have any questions about pickling, don't be scared. Just try and experiment. Give me an email and I'll be happy to talk you through it. All right. So we now have on Rabbi Jesse Dressen from Repair the World, who's going to teach us a little bit about how we can do something about this issue, take our learning into action. Rabbi Dressen.
Well, thanks, Avram. I feel like my knowledge of you as a person has been preserved for many years, and it just keeps getting crispier with time. So I'm so honored to be here. My name is Rabbi Jesse Dressen. I use she, her pronouns, and I work as both the executive director for Repair the World Baltimore, and I'm the rabbi on staff at Repair the World, which is a true blessing to be able to say is my day job. Repair the World mobilizes Jews in their communities to make service and volunteering a meaningful part of their life. And also we believe that service that cultivates relationships with people we might not otherwise meet or people that we have common interest with is an important part of an inspired Jewish life. So it's such a great opportunity to be here. And we really believe that it is so great to learn and so important because learning leads to action. And so I'm going to share with you just a few things that you can do right now if you're interested in addressing food justice. And I'm also, Sasha, I think you're going to share the screen for me. Is that right? You want me to share my screen?
I will be sharing the screen. Sorry, one moment.
So I just want to say that it's been so interesting and awesome to hear from so many people. And because Avram has known me my entire life, basically, he knows it's very hard for me to stick to the script. But I will say this, that Jewish tradition has an incredible opportunity for us to combine our values with our action in the world. And all of us are kind of like our own tzedakah box. We're all full of potential, but we're nothing but a bunch of coins in a box until we put ourselves out there into the world and we do something that holds us accountable to the values we have. So I have 3 things in front of you that you can do, but on a sheet that we're going to share with you that gives a little bit more information about how you could go about doing each of these and how you can figure out how to do them in your communities, there's actually a 4th thing. So one of the things that I'd like to call everyone to think about doing is to join or launch a farm crew in your area. You get to roll up your sleeves, you get to get dirty, and you get to learn a little bit more about what it means to grow your own food, what it means that food and the ability to grow food is power, not just for ourselves, but for the communities that we participate in. And it's a great opportunity to get to know people in your community and their own connections to food and culture, and the meaning that food has for them in their families. Secondly, connect to a food distribution or food rescue effort in your area. 40% of American food supply actually goes to waste, and a variety of organizations are seeking to create distribution channels between food providers, so grocery stores, distributors, restaurants, who might end up throwing out the food that they have that's excess. And these folks are figuring out ways to collect that food so that it doesn't go into the dumpster, and to actually sort and distribute that food in communities and in neighborhoods that maybe lack regular access to perishable goods like dairy, like food, fruits and vegetables, and so on and so forth. And thirdly, you can join a CSA, which is short for Community Supported Agriculture, or you can shop and become a committed customer to vendors at your local farmers market. Now, I've lived in California where I've had the opportunity to go to multiple farmers markets all year round. And I currently live in Baltimore, where I'm proud to say we have at least one farmers market that is year round. So in the sheet that will be shared with you in the chat and in the follow-up email afterwards, there's actually websites to help you find where there are CSAs and farmers markets in your community. And when you support a local farm or local vendors, you start to not just invest in your food, but you also get to invest in your community. And one of the things that Rabbi Allenberg said, and one of the things that I think is so important, is that food justice is about a lot more than food itself. And if you think about the fact that when you go to the farmer's market, you're actually supporting economy, and you're supporting people who live probably within a 40 to 50 proximate mileage from you do, as opposed to when you go to your large grocery stores and you're actually probably supporting industry that's in a different time zone than where you actually live. So when you support folks and you purchase your food from within your community, you not just get food that tastes better and food that moves according to the rhythm of the calendar as it's supposed to be, because we're not supposed to have strawberries all year long, but you're actually investing in the economy that's local to where you live. So there's a little bit more information in the sheet that I've shared with you all, including a link to Repair the World's campaign on food insecurity right now that we're running up through Thanksgiving. Always available and happy to help people think about how to connect their own action with their values. And Avram knows how to find me. So thanks for having us and Repair the World here tonight.
Amazing. Thank you for those action steps, Rabbi Dressing. I hope you were inspired today by Rabbi Dressing and her social justice and social action steps. Hope you were inspired by Rachel Sumek and Swipe Out Hunger. And I hope that you can bring this inspiration to your own localities, to your own schools, your own communities, and make something happen. I hope you're a little bit more aware about food insecurity and learned about that some people don't even know what organic is, let alone have access to getting organic food. And I hope you had some fun making pickles. And if you have made pickles, you were making pickles with me, or you're gonna make pickles, please send us, put it on Instagram and tag us, or send us the photos. I wanna see it. And any questions, let us know. Look, you're an incredible person and you have a lot of gifts to give to this world. And I want you to believe in your power to make change. On behalf of Sandy and Sasha and DJ Wildstyle, my name's Avram Mandel. We're Aesthetic America, and DJ Wildstyle is going to play us out. Have a good night, everybody.
Them belly full, but we hungry. A hungry mob is a hungry mob. A rain a fall, but the dirty tough. A yatta yuck, but the you'd not enough. You're gonna
You're rocking with DJ Wildstyle.
Music, yeah. We're gonna dance to the music then. Oh, forget your troubles and dance.